You do not have to be someone who has lost someone close to you to feel a sense of loss. There are, of course, innumerable kinds of losses. If you are here, if you are human, you have friends or family who have suffered loss, and you are already in a community with people who have suffered loss. This year, members of the Jewish Center community buried 11 of our own congregants. Another 27 family members of congregants were buried this year. So there are people with direct loss all around you. Then there are those of us who have buried loved ones over the last few years, days, or decades. It's hard for them. As a community, we have lost children. That is a horrific group to be part of. We have lost siblings and spouses, parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles. But we've also lost friends, and there's no specified way to mourn for a friend, teachers and mentors. If you are fortunate to have length of days, you will be unfortunate to experience more loss. Some of us will have good memories, others bad memories. Most of us have both. Each loss is the loss of an entire world, your world. And each loss brings some pain, but maybe some relief as well, if it's been a long illness. Personal loss is complicated by the truth that not one loss is the same. Each individual was unique, as is each one of us. Each of us reacts differently to loss. And the supposed stages of grief are not stages to be passed once and for all. They come back and forth like waves rolling over us when we least expect it. The immediate pain and emptiness of our losses may have dulled a bit over the years. But I bet, like me, most of you look around your holiday table and see the generations that used to fill it with laughter. It is our human condition that we live finite lives on this earth. And if we are fortunate, we have spent our lives abounding in love. And then personal loss is deeply painful. And then there is communal loss. This year, the Jewish people dealt with unimaginable loss. 1,200 people or so murdered on October 7th. It is not yet known how many hostages were murdered thus far. Israel speculates a bit over 70. 731 Israeli soldiers have fallen in battle as of yesterday. Civilians on the other sides of this conflict have fallen as well. They too are children of God. Ours is a world drenched in sorrow. In early April, I had the honor to visit Mount Herzl Military Cemetery in Jerusalem with a small group of rabbis. In 2017, a new, stark, modern memorial hall was dedicated there. The name of each fallen soldier from before the founding of the state until now is engraved on bricks in a circular winding wall that seems to reach up to the heavens. Our group of rabbis from Magen David Adom walked slowly around the winding path as we looked at each brick. And then We noted the staggering number of new names that had been added over the previous months. We stood silently as several families came to see the newly engraved names of their loved ones on the wall. We listened to them speak about their loss and about their soldiers. They were in mourning. We were witnesses. Then we went out to the cemetery to see fresh graves. Our guide wanted us to stop at the grave of someone he knew from his town. In Israel, unveilings often take place at or before the Shloshim, the 30-day mark. We again stood quietly in reverence as families came to be at relatively fresh burial places. The scenes on Mount Herzl reminded me of a Mishnah, an early piece of rabbinic text, where there are two distinct groups. There are mourners who have been personally affected, and there are other members of the community. This past year, my colleague, Rabbi Sharon Brous, wrote about this Mishnah in her acclaimed book, The Amen Effect. The Mishnah is from Masechet Nidot and speaks about Jews who come on pilgrimage to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Those pilgrims would go up the steps, the ones I spoke about on Rosh Hashanah, with thousands of others and enter and process around the courtyard of the temple. Can you envision this glorious sight? So many of our Jewish people coming on the holiday. The place was filled with Jews from all over the world who planned and traveled to make pilgrimage to our holiest site and to be in sacred community on the holiday. The Mishnah reads, "All who entered the Temple Mount entered by the right and went around to the right and out from the left, save for the one whom something had happened to. That person entered and went around from the left. Those who walked to the left counterclockwise were someone grieving or suffering. Today we would include the lonely, the ill, someone to whom something awful has happened, however you define that. The loss of a job, the loss of a friend, the loss of a relationship." Rabbi Brous wrote, "Just as when we are hurting, every step feels like it is against the current. Every person in the temple courtyard who passed someone who was walking to the left, who was brokenhearted, would be stopped. And they were asked by someone from the right side, 'Ma lecha makif lismol?' What happened to you? Why do you walk to the left?" Today, those people might say, "I lost my mom, my spouse. I lost a job, our child is ill," or "I just feel so lost." The person to the right who asked the question would pause and not run away. They would take in the pain of the other, and then all those who walked from the right would look the person in the eye and say, "Hashochen babayit hazeh yenachamecha." May the one who dwells in this house, God, comfort you. May you be wrapped in the embrace of this community. They were asked, "Ma lecha?" What happened to you? Malach. They didn't ask, "How are you?" "How are you?" would allow the person to shrug and say, "Fine," and move on. They asked, "What occurred with you?" Then the questioner stood quietly in witness to the pain they heard so they could give an appropriate blessing if needed. If you say, Malach in the feminine, it sounds a little like malach. Malach, malach. The questioner becomes like an angel comforting one who has suffered. The Acts in the Mishnah teach those of us who are mostly okay today to pause and to listen to those who suffer, and then not to move on without blessing them. This same action allows members of a community who suffer to know that they are heard and seen, considered, and that their community will lovingly take care of them. It happens when we say Amen to each line of someone else's mourner's Kaddish. In Rabbi Held's book that I spoke about last night, Judaism is about love, he notes that our purpose as a sacred community is first and foremost to be a place of loving kindness, a place where we can feel seen and heard through loving actions. The most thriving Jewish communities are when people in the community show up when others are suffering or in need, and show up in regular, routinized ways. The most thriving Jewish communities are ones where people show up for every joyful event. Every new baby wedding, every single bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah at a shul, everyone shows up. Sometimes it is our job in a community to bear witness to the suffering of those in our community. Sometimes we need to witness the joys of others in the community. That's what makes it a community. My Christian pastor friends call this ministry of presence. Their lay people, their congregants participate in ministries as we might serve on a committee. But calling it a ministry reminds them that this is sacred work. So if you are on our Chesed committee, that's sacred work. If you are on our social justice committee, that's sacred work. If you are driving someone to shul, that's sacred work. It is important for a Jewish community to have ways to pray and play, both religious and social activities. But it is next level Jewish community to organize ways to help those who suffer and those who experience joy. Standing and providing for people who suffer a loss or an illness or experiencing joy are concrete actions of the love we spoke about last night. It is the Amen in action. We have a loving, robust community, but can we be more of a robust community so that we can show our love in our actions? We are fortunate to have a wonderful Chesed committee that Martha leads at the Jewish Center. We are fortunate to have the ability to send a Shiva meal to mourners. Thank you, Sherry and Myra. But I want to challenge us as a community to up our game so that more of us participate in these and other sacred acts of loving kindness. We send Shiva notices not only so that you will know of your friends' losses, we send Shiva notices so that you can show up because you are a member of this community to someone else's Shiva, even if you don't know them. Compassion, rachamim, love is sending a catered meal to every Shiva home. More love would be arranging to cook for folks. And could we do more than one night? Because it's really the week after Shiva when things unravel, right? Could we provide Shiva volunteers to make sure that a home is ready, clean, with supplies, and then to clean up a Shiva crew? Could we sign up more of you to bring our elders to shul each week or to special events as some of you do? Can we grow our community Chevra Kadisha that needs more people, especially men, on it? That is to learn how to ritually wash and prepare bodies of the deceased for Jewish burial. Can we provide meals for a family with a new child? Luckily, we have lots of those now in the community. Can we provide support for families whose children are serving in the armed forces here or in Israel? Here's a harder one. I'll have you figure out how we're going to respond. Can we respond in an organized way to the loneliness epidemic that has gripped our country since the advent of the iPhone and social media? Written about all over, people of all ages, even if you're in a room with people, can suffer from isolation, sometimes even when they're surrounded, because sometimes we forget to say, Malacha, what's going on with you? And then wait for an answer. Can some of you serve as buddies to welcome new members, not just with a phone call, but with invites to synagogue and to Sabbath meals at your home? Can we provide new spaces for those who suffer mental illness and ways to support their family members? These are ways that a vibrant, intense Jewish community creates the scaffolding of how to show up with love, ahava, v'ahavta, because Judaism is about our acts of love. Can our community become an even deeper community of caring? That might be radical and countercultural, the best thing that we could do to build for all of us. If you would like to be part of any of these efforts, or one I haven't yet thought of, drop me a note after the holiday. This year, we face a different situation, however. This year, if the temple were standing in Jerusalem, and if we were fortunate enough to be celebrating in its courtyard, we would all be processing to the left, feeling a bit broken. And so what do you do in a community where everyone feels like they would need to process left? What do you do in the community when you feel broken by events in the world? How can we show up for each other? How can we ask each other, Malach, what's going on with you? Malacha. And then how can we give the person we are with a blessing, not a blessing from the book, a blessing from our hearts? So now I really am going to do something countercultural. Please turn in a moment to the person near you. And please make sure no one is left out. And please say to them, tell me one thing that is difficult that has happened to you this year. Malach, malacha. And then please bless them. I invite you to turn to your neighbor right now. I'm turning to you because I need to turn to someone. Okay, please turn back to me now for one moment. If you hear me, clap once. If you hear me, clap twice. There's ample time during the break or throughout the whole year the whole year to say to people, Ma lach. How you doing? Ma licha. And then to find the words of blessing and the actions of blessing. Words and actions. This year, actually in a video Thursday, in an interview on Israeli television, Channel 12, John Goldberg Poland says to all that he is not wishing you a Shana Tova. Instead, he is saying, Shana Shel Nechama. I wish you a year of comfort. Shana Shel Nechama. I wish all of us a year of comfort. Anne Lamott, the prolific author, writes, love is interconnectedness. We grew up learning that trees are always competing for space and nutrients. But since then, we have learned that beneath the ground is a lacy network of communication and help. Redwood roots spread in shallow, interlaced webs, barely below the surface, keeping every other tree straight against the wind. If one tree gets harmed, other trees send it their nutrients and supplies. Love is a root system. God in heaven and in earth and here in our community, let us be each other's root system, nourishing each other in this sacred community. May God bless us with the ability to listen to each other, to bless each other, and to be angels for each other. Shana Tova.